Archbishop Flynn, Father Deese, Mr. Doherty, Dr. Morrison, Mr. Fowler, and other members of the Platform Party, our students, faculty, staff, and alumni, delegates from other universities, and of course, my loving family, welcome and thank you for being here to celebrate this occasion. I particularly thank my mother, who made the journey from Florida for her first visit to Minnesota. And John, I told her it doesn't get below 50 degrees, so thank you for delivering on the weather. She's going to be here till Saturday morning, by the way. I stand here today honored, humbled, and impassioned to serve as the 15th president of the University of St. Thomas. I am deeply honored and humbled because of the rich history and traditions of this institution, which was founded in 1885 by the renowned Archbishop John Ireland. His vision in founding St. Thomas was for it to be an intellectual engine, equipping and propelling American Catholics to meet their age's call and to engage in great work for God and the world. The 14 presidents who preceded me nurtured this institution with inspiration, dedication, and care. And under the skillful leadership of Father Dennis Deese, St. Thomas evolved over the last 2 decades into an excellent, comprehensive university, one that is centered in the liberal arts and continues to equip and propel its students to meet the age's call. I stand here impassioned because of this very moment, looking out at this audience, indeed, members of our community, all of you who are vested in the University of St. Thomas and who believe unconditionally in its future. All of us are rightly proud of this university. As you have heard spoken by our student Jenna, our mission inspires us. We educate students to be morally responsible leaders who act wisely, and work skillfully to advance the common good. Not only do we educate students, our responsibility also is to be morally responsible leaders who think critically, act wisely, and work skillfully to advance the common good. Our timeless convictions, pursuit of truth, academic excellence, faith and reason, dignity, diversity, personal attention, gratitude. These beautifully reflect a university wholly committed to Catholic identity and mission, dedicated to social justice and improving the lives of others, and tireless in its pursuit of a holistic education that integrates faith and reason. I am overwhelmed by the warm and generous greetings and introductions that I've heard today. And throughout my time here, you have welcomed me with open arms and, most importantly, with trust. And your presence today fortifies my confidence that we will work together to stretch ourselves, to expand our vision, and to create an even more relevant and impactful university in the years ahead. Trust is very important in everything we do. At the University of St. Thomas, we will always address challenges and controversies with integrity and honesty. And we will work together as a community to help each other through the good times and the bad. So what is the call of our founder? Archbishop Ireland following the lessons of the gospel, vigorously urged American Catholics to be leaders in improving society. He urged, into the arena, priests and laymen, seek out social evils and lead in movements that tend to rectify them. He believed Catholics must live in our age, know it, and be in touch with it. Ireland further stipulated that the age tries all things by the touchstone of intellect. Ireland insisted that Catholics be in the foreground of intellectual and social movements, and he believed this would require access to educational institutions of the highest degree of intellectual excellence. And so our everlasting foundation was created to provide this intellectual excellence, which would prepare Catholics for the public square and meeting the call and needs of their age. What is the call of the 21st century? Today, we must ask ourselves several important questions. Are we in touch with the needs of our state, our country, and our world? And are we anticipating the needs of tomorrow? Are we providing an education that prepares our students to be the leaders and definers of the 21st century? What do we observe and what do we anticipate? I offer a sample of reflections here. First, the velocity of change in our society is rising exponentially. We all see that the economic, the social, political, religious, demographic, ecological, and moral forces that shape and reshape our lives are moving at a dizzying pace. Data and information are ubiquitous, and social networks provide seemingly unlimited connectivity and flow. Technology has put the power to create in the hands of the individual. Ideas are being instantly brought to life through technology such as 3D printers and scanners. Major companies are supplementing their own internal research and development by running, quote, contests to enlist the best minds around the globe to participate with them in creating their newest innovations. Further, recent rule changes by the Securities and Exchange Commission now allow companies to use technology to directly solicit capital from individual investors. I believe these significant developments are signals. They are signals that we are at a tipping point. We're at a tipping point of more fundamental shifts in the nature of work and the nature of organizations. The United States increasingly is a multicultural nation. For example, in recent conversations with the leadership at General Mills, we reflected on the fact that by 2020, the Hispanic population in the United States will equal the population of France. All consumer product and service companies, and for that matter, universities, must be connected to and understand these large and diverse populations and cultures. Finally, we are losing the perspectives of the middle. Our society is becoming increasingly polarized. What better example of the cataclysmic cost of political polarization than the recent government shutdown and today's deadline to avoid U.S. government default that was narrowly missed as a result of legislation passed last night. Likewise, we also are losing the middle of our socioeconomic spectrum. Despite decades of work by the government and not-for-profit sectors, and more recently, the for-profit sector, work to eliminate poverty and to increase access to quality education and economic opportunity, we continue to suffer from growing gaps in achievement and in income. Yes, the call of the 21st century is loud, and it includes wide and ranging challenges. But these are also exciting opportunities. I stand here today incredibly optimistic and enthusiastic about the University of St. Thomas's capacity to provide the excellent education that Archbishop Ireland envisioned. In fact, an extraordinary education that prepares our graduates for lifelong fulfillment and opportunity to serve God and the world. So why is this? Why am I so excited and optimistic? First, our education philosophy is centered in the liberal arts. Archbishop Ireland recognized the value of this philosophy from the beginning. He was a voracious reader and stressed the importance of cultivating the thirst for knowledge through reading. In his view, the precise content of a school's curriculum was not the concern. Rather, it was whether its effect would make the student a lifelong learner. We at the University of St. Thomas provide students the attitudes and skills to be capable lifelong learners and successful professionals. This is certainly essential in today's age, when the meteoric explosion of knowledge assures that what you know today in any field will not be sufficient for tomorrow. Perhaps more importantly, a liberal arts education impels students to explore and strengthen their own morals and values, to understand art and culture, and ultimately to discover a greater purpose and mission beyond themselves and their own existence. In essence, liberal learning prepares students to move beyond themselves, and as the gospel calls us, to be more fully for others. At the University of St. Thomas, we will continue to hold ourselves accountable for excellence in the pillars of liberal learning, the arts, the sciences, and the humanities, and for refreshing the relevance of our professional programs that build off of this liberal foundation. Secondly, our world-class St. Thomas faculty are student mentors, and they teach in context. Our professors across a multitude of disciplines immerse students in real-world problem-solving every day, whether they are designing a machine to dry breadfruit in Haiti, growing produce for food shelves as a part of a biodiversity research project, or providing counseling and legal services to underserved local populations. Our faculty develop and hone the skills our graduates need to lead, prosper, and flourish. These skills, in my view, are curiosity, ingenuity, collaboration, creativity, and confidence. I'm becoming increasingly convinced that confidence may be the precursor for the others. In a recent conversation with leaders at 3M, we discussed what is necessary to cultivate curiosity. And we ultimately agreed that the confidence to ask questions and make mistakes is a critical ingredient. One of my dreams is that every student who graduates from St. Thomas will have participated in an experiential learning opportunity with students from many disciplines, from multiple disciplines. And these students will have come together to collaborate, create, innovate, and solve real-world problems and challenges. Thirdly, we are committed to creating and nurturing a diverse community and ensuring that a St. Thomas education is affordable and accessible for future generations of talented students. We must be a microcosm of the world if we are to provide the richest and most transformative learning experience possible. This summer, as I was reading more and more about St. Thomas and Archbishop Ireland, I was extremely moved to learn that in the early days of St. Thomas, our community recognized the power of diverse perspectives and our responsibility to advocate for the inclusion for all. In fact, in our first decade, the faculty at St. Thomas hailed from a multitude of countries. The earliest students on this campus, their interactions with professors from widely different backgrounds, was described as providing that quickening of curiosity and expansion of imagination that are among the indispensable ingredients of liberal learning. In fact, I learned that the first Black student enrolled at St. Thomas in 1888, 3 years after our founding. No other American prelate of his time was a stronger leader in the cause of civil rights than Archbishop Ireland. He denounced racial discrimination and demanded full political and social equality for Black Americans. We are all brothers in Christ, and brothers do not look at color or race, he said. I know no color line. I will acknowledge none. Thus, it is no surprise that the first diocesan Black priest ordained in the United States was in St. Paul by Archbishop Ireland in 1910. Finally, and of paramount importance in meeting the call of the 21st century, is our Catholic mission and our identity. As a Catholic university, we promote and respect the dignity of every human person. We are called to live within the context of gospel values, values such as empathy, compassion, dialogue, and understanding. Our values impel us to be in the world, where, as Ireland said, we can prove our love for it and render it service. We are called to be leading voices in the Catholic political conversations of our nation and other political conversations of our nation, and in the global interfaith dialogue. We advance the common good, which means we create and cultivate the space, the common ground that joins us together as one humanity created by God. This is consistent with what Pope Francis envisions when he urges all of us to work for justice for the poor. In his trip to the slums of Brazil this past summer, Pope Francis implored us to never tire of working for a more just world marked by greater solidarity. We, the St. Thomas community, heed his call. Yet I know that we alone cannot create change for others. What we will do is we will work with others, the poor and the resourceful alike, to create effective and lasting change. So today, I'm immensely proud that St. Thomas is a university that is rooted in the gospel values of the first century and reflective of our founders' extraordinary aspirations for excellence, relevance, and impact. And I am energized and optimistic about our opportunities to boldly answer the call of the 21st century. As Thomas Aquinas, our patron saint, wrote, faith has to do with things that are not seen, and hope with things that are not at hand. We are filled with faith and hope, and we exude the buoyant optimism of Ireland when he said, I believe that God intends the present to be better than the past and the future to be better than the present. St. Thomas will be a leader in improving the quality of life in Minnesota, the United States, and around the globe. We are the light under the bushel basket, and the basket is raised halfway from the ground. The light is shining brightly within a certain radius. It is time today to remove the basket and let our light shine more broadly into the world. Thank you, and God bless you for everything you do for the University of St. Thomas.